Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, from start to finish, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
This is State of the Nation on KBN TV, the finest television. Thank you very much for choosing to join us on this week's edition of your favorite talk show. We are looking at a nation divided in mourning as our topic for discussion. Of course, we'll touch on other issues of national importance, and so I am very delighted tonight to be welcoming to State of the Nation the Honorable Sune. A future date pending consultation, you say, Minister. A consortium of civil society organizations today requested government to provide more clarity to what does it mean when you say it's been deferred. Are we likely to see this bill coming back, as the case was with the cyber crimes bills? And if that is the position of government, that you have deferred pending engagement and consultations, what guarantees are you giving the Zambian people that they will not feel duped like the way they felt over the cyber crimes laws, which when they made submissions, the final product that went to the floor of the House never contained the submissions of stakeholders? Then what is the essence of deferring a bill that will come back in the same way it was withdrawn from the floor of the House? What guarantees are you giving the Zambian people this time around?
Well, very interesting question, but I'll stick to the lane to talk about Bill number 7 and its deferment. That indeed, the guarantees do not lie into the pronouncements that I may make here on the behalf of government. The guarantees lie in broadening the participation of citizens, the participation of stakeholders, so that we attain the demand of inclusivity into this process, so that various stakeholders who had felt left out should now have the occasion to have a say. And this is important because we realized as government, under the guidance of President Hakainde Hichilema, that yes, we have stated before that these particular proposals contain, in our view, what we termed non-contentious matters. Yet when it comes to constitutional making, it is not really how contentious or non-contentious matters you're bringing for amendment to the House are. It is about the people giving unto themselves their constitution. How do you attain that? It is through broader participation, so that you can attain the requirement of minimum national consensus. So we believe that the guarantees will lie in this window being taken advantage of by various stakeholders now to come on board, to come and speak from inside and not outside, holding press conferences outside and airing views. Yet there is now an avenue, and that is the reason why when you even look at the question of time frame, the government has not included time frame, because time frame would presuppose that the government already has something in mind. The government has left it open that this new consortium, I should put it this way, of Zambians that must come together, should determine the roadmap, and therefore should determine who else needs to be heard over this matter going forward. And the goodness about this, I can tell you, Pastor Mambo, is that even if I say it, some might think it's politics, but it has a history. President HH, this far, has demonstrated in ways more than one that he keeps his word. He walks the talk. Just like when you invite me for another open discussion, I should be able to tell you that President HH, for instance, had promised free education, has delivered. He had promised return of meal allowances, has delivered. He promised to clear the backlog of civil servants who retired, who for many years were not paid. He has delivered. And only 2-3 days ago, the last batch of those who were not paid, who are Zampost, former Zampost employees, government released money to have them paid. It is a whole long list of electoral commitments or promises made by President HH that have been delivered.
I know we need to go to the funeral issue, but I just need, it's very important, Minister, and I don't think you have answered my question. The question is, what guarantees are you, as UPND government, giving to the Zambian people who said it is not just the process, but certain clauses proposed in Bill 7 do not necessarily reflect the desires of the people. Therefore, if you're going to defy it, it is on the premise that they give input, which input they're very, apprehensive as to whether you absorb it based on precedent that they were subjected to in the formulation of the cyber crimes law. Again, what guarantees will you give the Zambian people that if they make submissions, as you are suggesting, you will honor their submissions?
First of all, we're talking about constitutional making. And constitutional making is premised on wider or broader participation. Now, with the window that the president has now opened, that we restart the whole process, it gives two opportunities for views to be taken on board. Firstly, now there will be a broader platform for the church, civil society, various stakeholders to come and participate and determine the roadmap, determine what they think should be contained in those proposed amendments within the framework of what has been proposed, so that we don't open a whole Pandora's box. I can disclose here that when civil society and the church met the president on Tuesday, they made certain observations. For instance, a very critical one, such as where, Mr. President, is a provision to do with coming up with cabinet outside Parliament. It is the church and civil society who demanded that they would like to see cabinet outside Parliament, so that we have genuine separation of powers. Parliament should be legislature and cabinet should be executive, and not this overlap, although at law we say it is permissive overlap. So they were able to observe those kind of things, but then government is apprehensive that we are going to open it too wide again. We may end up having a demand to overhaul the whole constitution. But the point here is there is an avenue through participation and consultation for views to be factored into that particular proposed new draft bill. The second opportunity is that many of these stakeholders will now be invited at Parliament to speak to the proposed bill after it has been drafted, to now counter-check whether what they had submitted through their participation is actually mirrored in the now codified bill that will be taken to Parliament and referred to a select committee, which will give another opportunity for us to come and speak, for NGOCC, for Unzalaru, church, and so on, to come and verify that their submissions have been taken on board. And I can speak with confidence. You have a president who respects what he commits. You have a president who respects that he is in State House because of the vote the people gave him. He is eager to change the way leadership is done in this country, that leadership must be based on principle and integrity.
Very well put, Honorable Minister. Let's shift our attention now to our topic, a nation divided in mourning. We have a feeling based on what we are picking on social media, listening to television discussions, radio discussions, newspaper, and all of this, that perhaps we are where we are today as a nation because the family blamed the government for breaching an initial agreement to repatriate the remains of the 6th Republican president. You recall there was a joint press conference. The family representatives and government representatives, they agreed on terms. They came to the nation and said, we cannot repatriate because the government has breached the initial terms of agreement. So the nation feels we are where we are because of government's failure to stick to the agreement. I need to ask you this question, Honorable Minister. Why would it be very difficult for the government to honor very simple wishes of the family, such as the head of state staying away from attending a state funeral?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a very important question which provides an opportunity for us to put the record straight. Firstly, it has to be had in mind that the person we are talking about is no ordinary person. We are not talking about the late former president Edgar Chagwa Lungu in the stead of a leader of the opposition. That one was a political competitor and not an enemy to the current president and or the current party in government. What we are talking about here is a former president for the Republic of Zambia who, like other former presidents who have passed on, 5 of them in number, as a nation, we have established for ourselves certain traditions, certain norms, certain precedents or practices that over time, having buried 5 presidents, have now assumed in the public interest eye the force of law, that it is reasonably expected that once a former president or indeed a sitting president passes on, they will be given a certain treatment in terms of where they are buried and how they are buried.
That's assuming all things being constant.
That is how we have, that is where we are, because all these former presidents who have passed on, there were circumstances. For instance, the former president, Dr. Kaunda, we had similar circumstances like we do now, where the family came up with a wish list that the former president wanted to be buried at a private property next to his wife. But that is what he had said he would want to see. It culminated into a case in the courts of law, the People versus Secretary to Cabinet, ex parte Kaweche Kaunda, to which the Zambian courts pronounced themselves that in public interest, the former president had to be buried at Embassy Park because public interest in circumstances such as these override individual or family preferences. So the issue we are talking about is quite precedented, but your question is quite direct. Why should President HH not simply yield to stepping aside and allow the state funeral to go? And I think that this argument perhaps has been stretched too far beyond the limits to which it should have extended. This is because when you talk about a state funeral, what does it entail? Who is the head of a state? It is a president, and we only have one president, regardless whether someone likes him or her or not. Secondly, and most profoundly, what we are talking about here is about processes of statecraft and also procedures and protocols that govern functions where the government is involved. Let me conclude, Pastor. Therefore, a simple issue is, if you ask President HH to have nothing to do with that funeral, former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu naturally had friends, like any other president would have friends, in the region and beyond, who are reasonably expected that they would want to come and give a final send-off to one amongst their number as he or they were then. Now, when these heads of state come to Zambia, in terms of government machinery operation, who is going to receive them? Are we going to have a situation where you have 6 heads of state, as an example, who are going to come and attend a funeral service, and the host president is not there because he's unwanted by
I think
family?
Honorable Minister, you are being very simplistic, because I don't think there is any head of state in the region who is unaware of the unique situation that Zambia finds itself. There's a case in a high court in a foreign jurisdiction. So I do not think that they will come here oblivious of the obvious. Everyone is aware of what we are talking about. Now, I need for you to address 2 things that you have raised. Number one, I watched the family spokesperson yesterday after the court hearing. He was of a view that you cannot compare President Kaunda's feud with the family as far as where he will be put to rest with that of 60th Republican President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, because in one breath, the first Republican president enjoyed the full bouquet of benefits. In the case of President Lungu, he never had any of that. Your government stripped him of his benefits because he had come back into politics. So why would you want to give him the honor that you took away from him? That is the question.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I think it is actually the inverse, that many people are actually being simplistic about the matter, which is beforehand. Because when you look at firstly, the colleagues, the politicians in the opposition, and now specifically the Patriotic Front, who seem now to take center stage of this family. And I'm now tempted to begin to think that, yes, this is family, but it's my personal view now and opinion that some politicians have hijacked this process for political gain. Because, have you forgotten, not too long ago, in the same case of the late president, Dr. Kaunda, when he died, and the family were, expressing wishes of burying elsewhere, that they told the nation, with Honorable Given Rubinda as Justice Minister, telling the nation on 6th July 2021 that we as government, them as government, we are going to bury Dr. Kaunda at Embassy Park with or without his family, because Dr. Kaunda was a statesman who had assumed to become the property of the state. Have people forgotten that they are the same people?
But is that the reason why you want to do it? Because because they did it?
That is number one. That we should not easily lose our memory. That as if UPND is trying to do something extraordinarily out of the world. Coming to the issue of benefits, which I have to thank you for bringing to the fore, the late president, I think it was on the 26th of August 2021, after change of government, he wrote to the secretary to cabinet announcing that he had retired from active politics. The question you need to ask is, why did he write that letter? Because as former president, he knew that he could only access benefits of a former president if he had retired from politics to fulfill the legal requirements as provided for by the former President's Benefits Act, Chapter 15 of the laws of Zambia, at Section 4, which provides that where a former president has, retired from active politics, they then are entitled to certain benefits, amongst them transport, security, housing, office space, administrative staff, medical attention, return air ticket once paid to any destination of their choice for holiday. It is a whole paraphernalia. Those entitlements were accordingly given to the former president. And this is not the first time that law is coming into play. When former President Rupia Banda left office, he equally was accorded those entitlements until the day when the MMD announced that Mr. Rupia Banda is the president of the MMD. And Mr. Given Rubinda was the Minister of Information that time, I think. And he told the nation that because Mr. Rupia Banda has come back to active politics, as government, in line with the law, his entitlements revert. That is what has happened. And you never heard Mr. Rupia Banda go anywhere to complain that his entitlements had been taken, because he knew
Let's go to specifics, Minister.
And let me just wind up just 1 minute, if you allow me, so that I don't lose my mind. And that law, Pastor, is not a new law. That is a law which was enacted in 1993. So, coming to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, on 28th October 2023, he told a cheering PF crowd, and through that the nation, that he had returned to active politics. And active politics has been defined at law that you are pursuing an elective office. It is
right there, Honorable Minister. And I'm not trying to cut you short. I really want us to address the specifics. You have submitted before the Zambian people that Mr. Lungu, and everyone is aware, he returned to politics, so he forfeited. Is that correct?
correct.
So including everything that has to do with the President's Benefits Act. It was never given to him. Why must it be given to him now? He died having forfeited. So why do you want to restore what you withheld from him? Arabi that you are talking about, he finally went back to being a former head of state. At the time he was dying, his benefits had accrued to him and were given to him. Equally with Kaunda. Similarly with Chiluba. They enjoyed. Here is a very unique case. The law guaranteed. You acknowledge it in one breath. Why are you not acknowledging the same law that excludes him from state funeral?
Thank you. And in answering your question, is to state that on 3rd November 2023, the Secretary to Cabinet responded to what the late former president had indicated, that they had gone into active politics, by indicating that your benefits in line with the law have reverted. Then, on the 6th of November, former Attorney General Kalaluka, acting now as a lawyer on behalf of the late president, wrote to the Secretary to Cabinet challenging the withdrawal of those entitlements, claiming that they were an affront to the Constitution, but later abandoned taking further action on that particular trajectory. Answering your question is very simple. You have said that why accord him entitlements which were taken out. I will bring you back and refresh your memory that in this discussion I have said the former president has two identities that we must not confuse. One, he is a former president in active politics, for which those entitlements. Two, we are talking about the identity of a former president in death.
Who died in active politics.
He died in active politics, but we are now talking about specifically the question of the death of a former president. Would you argue that he is dead, but can you give him a house if you want to revert the entitlement? Give him a house, give him transport. No. The death part is quite different to the entitlements.
Let me bring you
that
back.
He would have enjoyed while alive. This is former president in death.
Let me bring you back to the argument you raised that there is no state funeral without the head of state presiding over. Did I catch you correct?
Well, there's actually, you can actually have a state funeral without the president being present. And I mean, this is precedented. I'm aiding you. You may not have this information, but this is what it is.
Yeah, because this is a question I wanted to ask you, to say you need to make a clarification so that we don't paint a picture that only when the president is present, that's when it is a state funeral, because we have had former ministers, they are accorded a state funeral.
Exactly.
And the president is not present, it's
Exactly.
it still is a state funeral. And if he's not present, he has his number two who can receive foreign dignitaries. And the question that Zambians are asking, why the insistence it has to be the president, when the nation, the region, and now the world knows the wish that there was a request that the president must not attend because of the bad blood between the two.
First of all, Pastor, in this whole transaction, we must be mindful that we have a country whose integrity we must all endeavor to preserve. And I did not wish to go in this direction, but I will not go further, but to state that when you talk about bad blood, it brings the question of, there's a video which I saw which the president was speaking, I think a few months ago, on the question of victimization of the former president. And the president is asking, who has victimized who? The late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, in the history of Zambia since 1964, is the only and first former president to leave office and go into death with his presidential immunity intact. No investigation, no attempt to investigate him, zero. You will recall that our colleagues in the opposition pushed it so hard, including himself, saying, I know, you just want to lift my immunity. And we would say, in line with what the president had guided, that let's open a new page. We can't make it a habit that each time a president leaves office, what follows? Their next destination is police station, it's court. No. President Edgar Lungu has gone from the time he left office, almost 4 years now. He never received even a single police call out.
Honorable Minister, you are married. I respectfully believe so. You are married and you have children.
Yes.
Is there a difference according to the Bible, and the two shall become one? His wife is ever in court. And guess what? He was always with her. He had the battalion of police to try and grind down his gate at the rented property in Ibex. The wife and children said, what you are investigating came from him. Ask him. How can you differentiate that that was not going after him when he's ever in court with his wife? Where is the difference?
And I would like to answer it in a very simple terms. President HH was in Mukobeko for almost 4 months. Did we have an occasion where his wife began to demonstrate that we are one? So it's me you are victimizing. I also will be staying in Mukobeko. Did you hear anything like that? The answer is no. Because what we are talking about is Christianity, is the Bible. It's not the law. The law deals with individuals. And in terms of Article 98 of the Republican Constitution for Zambia, there is only one person who enjoys immunity from prosecution at law. That is one who has been conferred by the Constitution itself, a president. There is nowhere known to myself, Pastor, where the law says this immunity extends to wife and children and uncles and friends. It is individual, because even when a president goes to swear, Have you ever seen a president picks a Bible and the wife also picks a Bible to swear? Why, wife, what are you doing? I know, we are one. That's what the Bible says. No. We are dealing here with the law, and the law is blind to who you are married to, whether you are married or you are not. The law deals with an individual. That's why when you read the law, even in the penal code, it says any person. It doesn't deal with any couple. Thank you.
Let's go a little further on this. The president called off the period of the extended period of national mourning. I need to qualify that. The president called off the extended period of national mourning, and in his words, he said, we need the nation to return back to normalcy. And he said, we cannot be in an indefinite period of mourning. By your act of suing a grieving family as a government in a foreign court, by implication, you have extended the national mourning, and we cannot return back to normalcy. I can't see the difference, Honorable Minister.
Well, first of all, it has to be understood here that that legal action was taken out by the Attorney General on behalf of the government and the people of Zambia as custodian of public interest. And the question of that suit being in a foreign country or foreign jurisdiction is simple. Because even if you go and take out legal action within the jurisdiction of our country, you go to the High Court or Supreme Court or wherever within Zambia, such a ruling will have no bearing, because the substantive material issue at hand is in a foreign jurisdiction for which Zambia has no authority.
So why did you sue? You have no authority there in South Africa.
We have no authority as a country to take any action there. I mean, to say, okay, let this remains be taken there or there. We don't have that authority because it's in a foreign jurisdiction. So the only avenue available is to take out a legal action within that jurisdiction. And I can bet with you, if you went out there, and I'm sure you are able to see this even just on social media, the former president, people want him buried in his homeland. That is just culturally. That's who we are as a people. And that is why that Embassy Park was created also to preserve a shared heritage of national memory and also to provide national identity of unity as a people, that the people who are here once served as presidents for all Zambians.
Can I pick your mind right there on the issue of public interest? I've really heard you several times speaking about this decision was made in the issue of public interest. And you are saying Embassy Park was created to create that, narrative that this is where we bury our, heads of state. It's almost as if saying State House was built in the public interest, that every serving head of state should stay in State House. We have a president who has totally refused to stay in State House. It's a matter of public interest. No one has sued him, Honorable Minister. So how do you argue the two to be different?
Thank you very much. And I also, under 30 seconds, can take this opportunity to let the nation know that, in fact, the return day for the hearing of that matter in that particular court in South Africa is not 18th, as may have been earlier on announced. It is actually 4th of August. So we have 1 month, about 1 month, 10 days. So the issue you are referring to now about public interests,
which you raised, and I'm just picking
Yes.
your mind on it.
I can answer it simply this way. That matter has not been tested before the courts of law. The matter we are talking about has already been tested before the courts of law, and the courts of law of Zambia have ruled that public interest overrides individual or family interest when it comes to the burial of a former president, because a former president there is a designated place. So there is a precedent.
The standard is the same, public interest. Are we not applying this from a biased point of view?
I'm asking one question to you also. I should ask you one question first. Do you have any authority to point to that the president, where he is staying, is either not in public interest or it is unlawful? Because for us, the issue we are pursuing through the Attorney General, there is a court ruling. Without that court ruling, I'm sure that we may not have taken that direction. And also, importantly here, this matter should be treated with the seriousness it deserves. We have a government with the mandate from the people of Zambia. And in a situation like this, the government must do everything reasonably expected of a serious and reasonable government so to do. Because we have heard, Pastor, already that former President Edgar Lungu will be exhumed and brought back on the 28th of August 2026, when, in their words, a new president is sworn in. Now, what does that tell you, first of all? It tells you that
is that a rumor, or is it?
There was a press conference where the Tonse Alliance spokesperson, and I'm sure you covered it as KBN, Sean Tembo, being franked by Honorable Given Lubinda, said these words just a few days ago. Now, when you come to those issues, you now have to raise above simplicity and say, what is at stake here? There is national unity at stake. And President HH will do everything possible to maintain the unity of this country under the banner One Zambia, One Nation. So there would be no justifiable cause to give to the people of Zambia that under his leadership, he just washed his hands like Pontius Pilate. So they've said they don't want me, or they don't want to bury. Okay, it's okay. That's not how a responsible parent behaves.
Can you tell the nation what did the president mean when he said we need to return back to normalcy? Didn't he think that the family had options to perhaps obey what they perceived to have been the wish of the late? That if the president has cancelled national mourning, it's almost as if saying, go ahead, literally washing the hands. Why would he send the Attorney General to say, I cancelled it, but you go and sue?
Well, I think what the president has done is in offers. What the Attorney General has done is in offers with what the president actually told the nation. Because the president was very crystal clear, very, very sacrosanct and unequivocal in his statement. He said, we've now come to a space where it's not clear when we would finally put former president to rest. In the meantime, the question of national mourning has had telling effects in the nation, including effect on business. Because during national mourning, there has to be a certain conduct. Certain activities cannot be carried on. And I'm sure you have seen that during that period, a number of activities were postponed. American Day, for instance, was postponed. A number of local activities were postponed because of the requirements that during national mourning, certain things cannot, be allowed to happen. So to allow for normalcy in the ordinary and literal sense is to say, let us allow ourselves to run, normally, as we await resolution over this matter amicably. And in his closing statement, which I think you played here, I think I saw it on KBN here, the president said, in the meantime, government doors are open. We await. We are open to further consultation and dialogue with the family. Now, instead of, because look, the president took the first step to extend a hand of friendship towards amicable resolution of this matter. Now, instead of our colleagues also to extend that hand, they said, no, we are going ahead. So, with that in mind, and taking into account the ramifications of allowing a former president to be buried in a foreign country, assuming for the next 15 years or 20, you don't have a president who would be favorable in the eyes of those who think that this HH cannot be present at the funeral. I mean, we'll only bring back ECL when there's a new president. So assuming, as I think myself, that 2026, maybe we do, the chances of continuing with the current president are very high. So it means that this, our late president, will continue to be in a foreign country until further notice. Now, the critical point here, Pastor, which we must approach with a greater sense of sobriety and seriousness. For all these children who will be growing up, what reasons are we going to be giving them as to why one of their former presidents is buried in a foreign country as if he was in exile, or he was a refugee, or any other unpalatable status? That is a recipe given for dividing a country in a more serious way.
Given that moral obligation to posterity, to make sure that what we do today should not be cause for us to be judged harshly, and premised on the fact that there is a court process that also provides a window for re-engagement, is it a consideration of your government that if the only thing that stands in the way to bring the remains of ECL to Zambia is the presence of the head of state, is it a consideration during this second window that he might reconsider that position premised on the wishes, so that we can honor posterity and write the correct history?
Pastor, I can now indicate to you that in line with the Presidential Affairs Minister for South Africa, who today addressed the media and called out on the Zambian government and the family for the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to use this window to come to a confluence of agreement. The Zambian government is ready to seize that opportunity with both hands. The president has already guided and directed that we must do everything possible to ensure an amicable settlement. I would actually like to indicate here that it is the wish of the President HH, and his administration, that the family and government are able to settle this matter outside court. Remember, President HH has been a chief proponent for alternative dispute resolution mechanisms throughout.
Is he willing to stay away from the funeral?
I am not here to commit because I don't have that authority.
It's the only demand.
No, I don't have the authority to speak for the president in that particular regard.
The reason I'm insisting on this, I was reading something, and I'm sure, Minister, you're also privy to this. There's so much chatter that beyond the demand for protocols, maybe there could be some more sinister, motive, other than just honoring the protocol. Why would it be so difficult for the president to say, Madam Mtarena Rumango, you're my deputy, go. I'll stay at State House. I'll watch like I watched KK's funeral, or is it Arabi's funeral? Go and represent and receive the heads of state. That's the only demand. Now, to whip the emotions of a grieving nation to the point they begin to suspect the government is up to something sinister over a funeral, why would you make it so difficult for the repatriation to happen?
First of all, I think that the narrative must be correct. There is nothing the government of the Republic of Zambia has done to stop the repatriation of the remains of former president. In fact, just like the president stated, we were all shocked that instead of the body being repatriated on the material appointed date, the press conference was called in South Africa to say we are not repatriating the body. Amongst the reasons this is happening, you are grading a road leading to the mourning house using RDA without permission from the family. Now, let's be serious about these issues. Secondly, when you put yourself in my shoes, the president just guided today what he would like to see. Even before the South African minister spoke, the president had already guided that let us use this window to open fresh talks. Because even in war, we have seen there's a war there, Iran, Israel and US. There is time for ceasefire. You talk to each other as you look for an amicable solution. So to begin on my side, to prescribe what should happen, when I know what the president has already guided, that let us have a team to engage the family, would be like I'm already giving conditions, or we're giving conditions in the inverse. Then what would be the purpose of engaging? The purpose of engaging is to say, we have a problem here. We have a stalemate. Those who will be mandated to go and negotiate, that I believe could be one of the sticky points that they would like to iron out, and then come and report to say, well, look, their demands are A, B, C, D. But if you are able to resolve this one, even us as our negotiating team on behalf of government, the demands we put were this. This they accepted, this they rejected. Even us, can we sit on this one so that we can have consensus? I think that is the whole idea.
Right. I think we need to move on and talk about other matters. But maybe my last question on this, Minister, when we were discussing the presidential benefits, it's been tested by law. This matter too, in the jurisdiction where we as a Zambian people have sued the Lungu family, it's been tested. There's a case of a former Angolan general who died in South Africa, and the government wanted to repatriate him. The family refused. There's a precedent to that effect. What happens if you lose as a government in this case? Because there is precedent in South Africa.
Well, first of all, when you refer to precedent, the facts must be on all fours, meaning the facts must be similar to the case you are relating to. That is where precedence comes in. If the facts are materially different or slightly different, then you can't use that as basis for referencing, your point. So, when you talk of an Angolan Army General, President Lungu was not an Army General. He was a president. So, his stature is beyond his personality for family. This was a national character, a national person, a former head of state, and that is why, even when he came back to politics, people are saying, no, we need him to be a statesman who has the authority to advise the sitting president and any other who may come thereafter. So he is a former president, and that is where public interest on behalf of the people of Zambia comes in.
We shall be opening the phone lines so that the minister could interact with you, our viewers, in a little while. I shall be signaling to you when you can call, and the number is already on your screens. Let's talk about the recent human rights report, Honorable Minister, which has accused your government of gross human rights abuses. Initially, it was dismissed as just one of those rumors, and I remember you saying that we have been given an opportunity to go and defend, the contents of that in Geneva, and I believe the team from government did justice to that. But a few days later, the media director of the ruling party, held a press conference, and he described that report as misleading, lopsided, misdirected at law, and the authors should have been drunk. No one has censured him. No one has said you shouldn't have said that, because this is a government issue, not a party issue. The fact that the media director of your party has never been censured, everyone thinks that's a government position.
Thank you, Pastor. And I don't think that people should think that that is government position, because government position is given by those who are in government. It's just as simple as that.
Why do you allow juniors to comment on matters that are above their paycheck?
Well, first of all, when different political players make their comments, they make them in their individual capacities and in the capacities they hold, for instance, as member of that particular club or a political party. If you had said that that statement was issued by anyone in government, then we would have had to shoulder that responsibility.
This is a senior member of your ruling party.
Yes, but he is not in government. So the government's position is not what was given. That was a party position being espoused in defense.
When the permanent secretary, Mr. Tawokawan, said something about the health of the late President Lungu, you were very swift to say this is not a government position. No one has spoken as far as how lopsided and how drunk the UN staff were about this human rights report. No one has spoken.
And we are speaking from the same page, Pastor. The only reason I was swift was because I realized that this is carrying the image of government, because the permanent secretary is in government. It's as simple as that.
Right. So I'm with the Honorable Minister of Information and Media, Honorable Cornelius Mwita, and we're discussing a nation in mourning. You can now call us. The line is right on your screens, so that if you have anything to put across to him, perhaps you feel I didn't represent you well, it's your time now. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from. Hello?
Hello, Pastor Kennedy.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Honorable, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I followed your program, Honorable, and there is 2 points we are skipping to answer there directly. The first one, we talk about the Lungu family, the deceived one. And second, they ask you the question concerning for the president. Why can't you let it, the president, or to send someone to move from that finilo? Then the other point is that when you look at the president, it's not staying in the State House. The same applies for Lungu. If you can allow them, the buried separate, because that one is very simple. It is same, Honorable. The third part is that, Honorable, some of the questions you answered, you are not convincing for the Zambians. Please try to be honest when you're speaking something. Speak with passion and love. You talk about the other one, treatment for the president and the former president when they're in the opposition. In the opposition, by that time, our president, they are not in the former president. There is a difference. It's like the normal citizen. But today's change, they've got authority in power. Same applies when you look at for Mr. Lungu.
Please conclude.
Head of state.
Please conclude.
So that one, Honorable, it's totally different. Honorable.
What was your name again? Sorry, I didn't pick your name.
Christopher.
Where are you calling us from, Christopher? Okay. All right, that's Christopher. He couldn't tell us where he's calling us from. Before Honorable Minister comes in, please come through. You are through to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from. Hello? Hello?
Ryan,
okay. Now we can hear you. Your name again?
Ryan from Livingstone.
Ryan from Livingstone. Please go ahead.
Brian from Livingstone.
Okay, Brian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen like there is a misunderstanding. Yes, I'm seeing there is a misunderstanding between you, pastor, and the minister. The minister is answering very well, and we just need to be very much fair there. Let's use the truth. He's answering in a good way. I don't think that is failing to answer your questions.
Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Thank you for your concern. Now, the minister is here to speak to your concerns. And our job is basically to ask what you, the members of the public, have been raising on this matter. So I do not represent my views. I'm representing your views. And so if you need the minister to clarify anything, please go ahead, take advantage of this opportunity. Let the minister clarify.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know how far have they agreed of bringing back the body for our president, our former president, I mean. Because with the interest of us Zambians, we need to see the body for our former president buried in Zambia.
Is that all?
Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I pick one more?
No problem.
So that we have three that you could respond to. There are a lot of SMSs as well, but let's perhaps just pick another phone call. You are through to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening. Thank you.
I'm calling you from Toronto.
Your name?
My name is Jombe.
Jombe.
Yes.
Oh.
Through your pastor, I just want to find out from Honorable, how many families does a person come from? Like me, how many families do I come from? And we're supposed to talk. If I'm to expire today, we're supposed to talk. Are they my children, or are my fathers, or my mothers? We're supposed to talk on my behalf when I'm gone. And secondly, the president, if he doesn't appear there, is not going to represent me. One, the reason why the president should appear on a national mourning is going to represent my grandmother, who is Kwahae in Namushakende, my grandmother, who is in Vupwi, because he's the face of every citizen. So if we exclude him out of 20 million, honestly, out of 20 million, you exclude one person. Is that fair, honestly? I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jombe. Honorable Minister, I'll allow you to respond to these three, and then we'll pick up a few more.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the callers for bringing their perspectives to bear. The first one, Mr. Christopher, why should the president not just stay away? I think we've canvassed this particular issue, and I think that it is one which for now has been sufficiently addressed to a point where I have indicated that because of the new process that is likely to ensue herefrom, it is important that we give room to that process to yield results which all Zambians believe should be the results that unite and not divide the country. He's talking about not convincing. I'm not convincing. Well, my job, Pastor, is not to convince anyone.
Exactly.
My job is to tell the truth.
Yes.
So it's up to someone who wants to hear the truth or not. It's not to convince, it's to tell the truth as it is. Because the Bible says, only the truth
shall set you free.
Simple. Then the question of staying at State House. Again, I have responded to this issue. It also came on the floor of the House at Parliament. And Honorable Mwimbo responded to this particular issue, and that presently there is no law which preclude a president from staying at their private property. And in fact, the president had committed, even before becoming president, to say, I will be staying at my personal house in the like manner that the president had promised that once I am elected president, I will not get a salary for a living. Why can't people take on him head-on collision? Say, Mr. President, you are our president. And according to established practice, all your former presidents have been getting paid. How come you are not getting paid a salary for a living? We want you to get this money, then you head to ShopRite or to Makarangu's market when he's in Choma at his farm. No. There is nothing, there is no law like that. However, this is in an open-ended thing, and perhaps when there will be something we can point to, we will then be relying on that in the manner we are pointing to a court ruling over the former president, Dr. Kaunda, matter. To say, because the court had said presidents must be buried here, it is in keeping with the court ruling that government is requesting the family to reconsider their position, given the position of law which the court has pronounced itself upon. That is the difference between these two issues, and therefore, when you compare staying at State House, which is there is no precedent or law to point at, and this one where there is a law guiding, how to treat a former president. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
Perhaps it's one matter you need to include in the proposed constitutional making, so that it is prescribed by law that the president must stay in State House.
Well, perhaps maybe not even in the constitution. There can be an act of parliament which can talk to those issues, and I think that any issue that brings controversy in the nation is fertile ground for the country to look into perfecting that issue. Just like now, many people are reaching out to say, once we are done with this funeral, National Assembly should begin to quickly look at legislating effectively beyond just a court judgment, so that when a president or former president dies, there should be no issue of family, there is this wish, because like we have said, like we've heard before, some of the wishes being made by living people, sometimes you question whether these wishes are actually genuine or they are politically motivated, trying to use the circumstances as political counterweight, given that we are headed for elections. Right. All those permutations are available for speculation. Then Mr. Brian from Livingston has asked a question: how far have you gone to repatriate the body of the late president? Because he says we want to see our former president buried in Zambia. Those are the wishes of many. And the only thing I can say for now is that as the nation knows, this matter is on ice. And we await the negotiations that are going to begin from now. Hopefully, government would like this matter resolved before the date for the court to make a pronouncement. Because just begin to imagine that as a people who have lived as one Zambia, one nation, and presently we exhort ourselves as being peaceful and united, that over a funeral of a former president, we can use that occurrence to leave a country divided, like the headline there, a nation divided in mourning, instead of using this opportunity to bring the nation together. Because even in the village, when there's a funeral, you put aside all the differences you have as a family, you put them aside and say, let's mourn the departed with honor. Once we are done, we shall come back to look at these differences we have and see how we harmonize. That is the Zambian way. That is the African way, of resolving some of these issues that we are faced with. So for now, that is where we are. Then Mr. Chombe has said, who is supposed to speak on behalf of the family? I'll give a very honest answer. And I have heard these views and such questions from many people. It would appear the politicians have taken center stage. Makebi Zulu is not even related. In fact, he's a lawyer. He's just making money. He's doing legal representation, masquerading as a family representative, and so on. All these are permutations that we know are out there. But my honest position is the following: that the person we are dealing with is a former president. This is a man of stature that in mourning him, there has to be assigned certain individuals to play certain roles in order to give him a certain modicum of integrity and decency in the process of mourning him. And therefore, there would be nothing wrong that even if it were to be the case that Makebi Zulu is not a relation, but because of the stature of the person we are mourning, you must assign certain people to play the role they are playing. Perhaps what may be wrong is how you play that role when you are given the opportunity.
Let me read a few messages before we have just a few minutes, before we wrap up our program. Someone here says, let me start with something that concerns me. Someone accuses me. He says the presenter is partisan and emotional. So I will respect that. I will respect that view.
Hazards of the trade.
I accept that view and I respect it. Someone here says, I think the first caller has a point. That's what I also wanted to say. Ask the minister. I'm James from Livingstone. I think he agrees with Christopher. Another one here says, which nation is divided? Good program, Pastor and Minister. Is the Lungu family committing itself to body viewing openly? Or willing Zambians? That's a question that someone has posed. Others are saying, can the government confirm if indeed the person who cleared Mr. Lungu was fired at the airport? Another one here says, the government is not serious. They have failed to control the conduct of their cadres to stop insulting the other camp. Too many messages. This is the African way of politics. First it was butane, now it's cyber law. Well, I don't know. We're talking about the funeral here. I'm just sampling.
Yeah.
They are coming.
Definitely.
I'm just sampling a few messages. Another one here says, stop calling, please. Stop calling, please. Honorable, no, I'm not going to read. Please, when you send a message that is respectable. I will not read this message. Please, let's be civil. Perhaps I see an international call. Let me pick this one. Hello, good evening and welcome to State of the Nation.
Hello, good morning. Oh, sorry, good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Okay, my name is Tandiwe Ketisingoma.
All right.
Good evening, Minister.
Good evening, Madam. Thank you.
Nalala Ndamchibemba. Minister.
Does the minister understand? Wait a minute. Does the minister understand your language? First of all, let's establish that.
No, I understand many Zambian languages.
He understands. All right.
Including Bemba.
Okay, please go ahead.
Na dotera pantumulete understand. Ndefu andande mchibemba wa minister. Wa minister mulibamu fulo. Na muisa na muika loko. Mlefu okwebati mlefu okupela ba Lungu a dignified funeral. You want to consider him a statesman. You want to consider him as a former head of state. Now, remember, Minister, when Lungu was being stripped naked by your UPND officials, where were you?
No, excuse me.
Want to give
no. Excuse me. I don't think you have to be correct. You have to be factual. I don't recall any time when the former head of state was stripped. So can we stick to facts?
There are videos which are circulating on the social media where the UPND cadres held a presser telling the former head of state that they will circumcise him if our Northwestern province above ever lero ndololefyo ukweba tu uyo lungu imwenga tamwishi wefya kunshahando mkamulete kuno tukese mchita circumcise.
Okay.
We've seen insults when the former head of state went to deck
Tandiwe,
where he was being insulted.
Tandiwe.
Why?
So the minister said we should not be divided. Now, you taking us back to those days, I think this is in the public domain. I needed for you to ask a question based on...
Minister, sorry. That was fininama fina pachilonda. We have to
I'm
speak
sorry.
things as they are.
I'm sorry, I would have to
Don't
cut
make
you.
us
No,
keep
no.
quiet.
I'm sorry, I will have to cut you because you are being emotional. I'm sorry, I will have to cut your call. Honorable, maybe you can respond to the SMSs.
Well, the first one I think that you read spoke about is the family committing to a body viewing. Again, that is not for me to answer. That is for the family. But as you would imagine, when somebody has passed on, ordinarily, mourners would like to see the body of the deceased as a final act of farewell that this person has died, and from that begins the healing process. That is ordinarily how it happens, because death is so strange that although people have been dying for centuries, when it strikes near you, it is a whole new experience every time. That even someone you have been living with, even if you were at the bedside when that person has died, you were watching, on the day they are being put to rest, you still want to have a final glimpse, because that is the last time you ever have an opportunity to see that person. That is the importance of body viewing, and but there are exceptions where body viewing may not take place. Of course, it could be the state of the body is not permissive to see it. In the village, there are people who have taken certain medicines that they leave instructions that you don't look at me when I'm dead. I was a minister for the province, and I've attended various funerals, including strange ones, you know. And so these things actually, they happen. There is a question on a person who cleared Mr. Lungu to travel to South Africa. Was he fired? There is nothing known to me of that particular nature, because like I've indicated before, the government on more than one occasion, before the president, former president, traveled to South Africa, made offers to take him for medical attention, to which he declined to be taken by government. And the government respected, because issues of health are anchored on confidentiality. So I wouldn't see where the same government wants you to go for medicals. When you now finally travel on your own, the person who has cleared you at the airport should have been fired. I think it would have made the virus, circulation on social media.
I think it was reported by the news diggers.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the veracity, the authenticity of that. Like I've said, there's no information on my desk to that particular extent, and I think we are not a cruel government to reach those levels of victimizing citizens as such. Then the last caller, before that, there was a consideration about cadres, your cadres insulting the former president. Well, I will not defend our cadres who may say certain things that are unpalatable. The only thing I know is that both camps, the opposition, particularly PF in this regard, and the ruling party, the two sets of cadres are in a state of shock. Speaking for the UPND cadre base, it is shocked how their own president should be treated as a leper in his own country, that he was pelted with all manner of insults and all manner of discrimination. To an extent, he was told, you can never be president of this country, in the opposition. That now, even when he is a president, some people can't stomach it, that, okay, fine, he is there. He will not be there forever. There is a legal time limit. He will come out. For now, let us leave him to be there. then there will be another chance for another person to take over. That is a normal, sober, human behavior. You can't be bitter forever. Otherwise, this bitterness is very dangerous. One day, we wake up, we find that the world has come to an end. You are still bitter. No chance. This is very serious, the bitterness you see and hear from some people towards an individual. And this is an Zambian. We must, us who have the opportunity to participate in national affairs, including calling like this, we are participating in national affairs. We must be stitching the gaps. We must be closing ranks towards unity, because we know that united we stand, divided we fall. No matter how much hate we may have or harbor for one or the other or a group of people, we must remember that there is something we shall not change. We are all Zambians and shall remain Zambians for as long as God gives us life. And so we must learn to coexist and tolerate each other. And fortunately, there is democracy which provides for avenues for us to hold divergent views but still be able to live in one accord. That is the beauty of democracy, and that is why President HH wants to govern the nation on the basis of rule of law. Firm, polite but firm,
Right.
to ensure that the country continues as a going concern. Madam Tandiwe Ngoma has spoken about President Lungu being stripped naked. I will indicate here that I have, on the behalf of the UPND, if I were to wear the cape of UPND party spokesperson, and I think you will agree with me on this one, Pastor, that we as a party have not spared any moment to denounce any act we have viewed as being divergent to what the president stands for. Remember, in his first speech, acceptance of victory speech, the president spoke about no cadarism, no violence. Attendant to those two limbs of cadarism and violence, the president abhors and frowns upon hate speech. He frowns upon insulting language, tribal, statements. And that is why the cybersecurity law was put in place to curb excesses of individuals who, by reasoning, they cannot accept. There has to be something else to stop them. But even with cybersecurity, because of the inherent and inalienable hate that some people have grown up with, you have seen in the last 1 week or two, young people being abused to shoot videos to insult the head of state. What type of Zambia do we want to get at a time like this, when we must be uniting so that we oversee this mourning period? Then we resume now to our ordinary way of life and begin to look at inflation, which has moved from 18% to 14.5 today. We begin to look at minimum meal prices that have gone down. We begin to look at load shedding, which presently Mamba Corriers have shut down 150 megawatts because they are doing routine maintenance. But the effect has not really been felt because Chisamba has come on board producing into the grid 68 megawatts, and the president will soon be going to commission the same. These are the positives that we must have been.
I hope after the funeral, Honorable Minister, you could accept our invitation to come and talk about the positive developments from the economic perspective. Since today we're merely looking at the aspect of mourning and all these things, but I really would like for you to come and talk to the inflation and talk to fuel and talk to meal and talk to power and all of those things at an appropriate time. Let me thank the Minister for making an appearance on State of the Nation for the first time in person. The first one we did was virtual.
Thank you so much for having me and for giving us the opportunity on KBN and
The #1 TV liar.
no. As you know, the point I wanted to make, Pastor, was that wherever we have our cadres misbehave, and I have in mind at the Malaita traditional ceremony, you remember what happened? We came out in the open to take responsibility, apologized to the former president. That is who we are. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us on State of the Nation. Be sure to catch us next time on Thursday, 23 hours, as we bring to you yet another guest to speak to your concerns as members of the public. I hope the minister has cleared a number of things around this national mourning, and it's a desire of everyone that an amicable solution is found so that we can return to normalcy. The Lord keep you and bless you. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.